Today's video, we're going to talk about the hero's journey and how this can help your screenplay. Now, this video is part of a series on how to write your idea from concept to first draft, and I'll link the previous lesson above me. If you're not following my step-by-step guide, writers still need to understand the hero's journey because many producers are going to relate to your story based on this concept. So what exactly is the hero's journey, you may be asking yourself? Well, it's an archetypical narrative pattern that can be found throughout all of the world's literature. Now, some examples where you could find this would be in the Bible, Gilgamesh, King Arthur, just to name a random few. Now, a great resource to learn more about this, and the first person to really explore this concept in detail was Joseph Campbell in his book, A Hero with a Thousand Faces. And I will put a link to his book in the description below if you'd like to read more about this. It's really academic as well, too, so it's a good exploration of the hero's journey. Now, consider this as we explore the hero's journey, that this narrative pattern really reflects the human experience, which is why it's so often used and why it's really powerful in storytelling. Now, with all that being said, I don't want you to shoehorn your story into the hero's journey. Most stories will have elements from the hero's journey, but most don't have every step. And that's okay. We don't want you to write a formulaic story, but one that utilizes the best from different structures, and the hero's journey is just one of those structures. So don't worry about making sure your story hits each one of these beats. Again, we're learning about this because it helps us give us a framework to work with as we craft our first draft. And this is also the language of the film industry. If you're in a pitch meeting, a producer may start talking to you about how your main character needs to have some kind of mentor. And now you'll know where they're coming from with this idea. So right now, let us explore the 12 stages of the hero's journey. The first stage of the hero's journey is the ordinary world. This is where our hero or protagonist, what their world looks like before their story begins. We get to see what John Wick looks like before the action begins. We get to see what Luke Skywalker is, or how Frodo lives in the Shire. The second stage is the call to adventure. Most often we hear this in screenwriting terms as the inciting incident. What problem is presented or challenge to the hero that is their call that disrupts their normal world. So in this case, it would be like the tale of a wizard telling about a ring to someone from the Shire. It could be a phone call about somebody who's dying, but something happens which disturbs the day-to-day world of the hero. The next stage is the refusal of the call. A hero refuses the challenge or journey, usually because he's scared. This is a famous one, comes from Star Wars, where Luke goes, "I can't go with you to Alderaan. I need to stay here with my Uncle Owen." So I think there's a lot of, and plus in classic literature, if you look at the call of Moses by God, this is a point where someone refuses the challenge or the journey ahead. Number 4, meeting with a mentor. So one great example of this would be, again, Obi-Wan, since I love Star Wars so much, it would be Obi-Wan for Luke Skywalker. It could be a diary written by one's father. It might be a website or a self-help book. There might be something that's helping the hero to gain advice or training for the journey ahead. So again, meeting with a mentor is where the hero finds some type of mentor, whether it be a human being, it could be an animal, it could be whatever the case may be, but it helps to give them insight and advice for training for the next step ahead. The next one is crossing the first threshold. The hero leaves the ordinary world and goes into the special world of the story. I remember Frodo and Sam as they were leaving the Shire, and Sam was like, "This is the farthest I've ever gone before." And that was really that moment of crossing that first threshold. So is there something in your story right now that there's some sort of barrier? It doesn't necessarily have to be a physical barrier like we see in the Lord of the Rings, but it could be a symbolic or emotional or societal or spiritual barrier that they're overcoming. And very often with the crossing the first threshold, this is seen as the first turning point at the end of Act 1. The next stage is test allies and enemies. The hero faces tests, they meet allies, and of course, since we started with enemies, they learn their enemies too. And they learn all the special rules for this journey that they're going on right now. We learn about the Force in Star Wars. We learn about the ring wraiths in Lord of the Rings. We learn about Jaws in the movie Jaws. So we learn about different things, and we learn how this world works. The next one is the approach to the innermost cave. This is where our hero is getting very close to a very dangerous situation. The tension is going to rise and the hero must use all of their resources that they've had up to this point. So this is what this stage is about. This is where the hero is getting very close to a very dangerous situation. Next one is Ordeal. This is where the character meets their biggest life or death crisis. I remember watching Lord of the Rings for the first time and seeing Frodo being skewered by the troll in the mines of Moria. And I was like, oh no, Frodo's gonna die. That's not supposed to happen. But it's some point off in the midpoint of the script, which is where the hero runs across a critical situation. So this is what the ordeal is. The next stage is reward. So our hero, having survived the ordeal, is rewarded and they overcome their fears. We see that Luke has saved the princess, that Frodo has made it out alive from the mines of Moria with his friends. The next one is the road back. A hero must return to their ordinary world. I'm sort of reminded of when Indiana Jones goes back to the classroom after he gets done saving the world in Raiders of the Lost Ark, or for the opening part of the Temple of Doom, or any of those type of things. So how have things changed since they've come back? How have they grown? How will their friends and other people perceive them? So the road back. The next stage is resurrection of the hero, another test where the hero faces death and he has to use everything that he or she has learned to survive. You know, when Luke destroys the Death Star, he has to face Darth Vader. He has to surrender himself to the Force in order to win. Indiana Jones, in the search for the Holy Grail, must trust his father, which he has not trusted all of his life, and learn to have faith in order to reach the Holy Grail. In a classic story, the hero faces the largest threat to his goal and the largest threat to his need. When we talked about what his goals and what his needs were back in this video here. And this, in a chronologically ordered screenplay, this step constitutes the second act turning point and the beginning of Act 3. The next step is return with the Elixir. The hero returns from the journey with the Elixir and uses it to help everyone in the ordinary world. In this part of the story, the hero returns to a level of normalcy after the events of the story. Here, all the loose ends are tied up and we see the benefits of what the hero has gone through. The benefits to himself, to his friends and family. He may, like Luke, no longer have a world to return to. His family is dead, but he has a new surrogate family in the Rebels and his newfound friendships with Leia and Han Solo. So your writing exercise for today is to look at your outline and add pieces of the hero's journey in and see if they're a good fit. What does an ordeal look like for your character? Again, not all the stages will fit your story, but I wonder if there are a few that can help bring you more clarity when it comes to your outline. So give it a try, write down all the different stages and plug and play and see if any of those things help enhance your story. Again, if they do not enhance your story, don't use them. This is, again, just helping us create a better outline and this will help us write that first draft. So again, this is the whole point of this exercise, is to find out what works and what doesn't work. So again, I know for my personal writing, I didn't have the Elixir part. I didn't find that very useful in my writing, but the ordeal was something that I found very helpful in writing the current screenplay that I'm writing. From this video, please put them in the comments section below. Hi, if we're meeting for the first time, my fellow screenwriting enthusiasts. My name is Paul from Small Town Movie Critic. If you're new to the channel, we're all about helping you write that kick-ass screenplay by giving you tips, tools, inspiration, and product reviews. If you feel like this is the type of content that will be good for helping you with your screenwriting endeavors, feel free to hit the subscribe button below, the like button, as well as the bell icon, so that way you know whenever I upload a new video. Now, as we do each and every week, I'd like to welcome all of our new subscribers. Thank you all for walking with me through our collective screenwriting journeys. I wish you all luck in your future writing and filmmaking endeavors. Well, Dagon, my audio drama is done. I will include a short version here right after this part here, and I will link the podcast in the description below. Now, hopefully this week I'll release a full version on YouTube, which will again be the whole audio drama, just set to some pictures. So let me know how you enjoy that, and I'm hopefully going to be making more of those here in the near futures.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more. Penniless, and the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below. Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily typed pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death. It was one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider. The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the enemy's navy had not reached its later degree of ruthfulness, so that our vessel made a legitimate prize, whilst we of our crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due to us as naval prisoners. So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time. When I finally found myself shift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator. Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight. The weather kept far, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land. But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue. The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know, for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous. When at last I awaked, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous udulation as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder.
More of those here in the near futures. Now, my hope for you this week is that your writing goes well, or more likely your rewriting is going well. I hope you have been able to carve out time so you can work on that next kick-ass screenplay, because only you can make that next blockbuster that will help other people fall in love with storytelling like we all do. So until the next video, keep writing and have a blessed day.